Ron Siegel Radio, your home and mortgage connection.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
And hello again. Welcome to Ron Siegel Radio. This is the show with no real boundaries as we discuss current events, financial markets, politics, sports, even poking fun at the rest of the media. This is the show that connects the dots of confusion delivered by conflicting media reports. We connect the dots so you know the actions you can take out your family or business can benefit from current events. Most of all, thank you for joining me. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day. We have a very focused show. We only chat about items that affect the roof over your head, your bank account, and anything I feel would benefit you. And then remind you, if you ever have any more finance-related questions, I am the consumer advocate looking out for you. And you can reach out to me directly, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Just remember, that's the number you call anytime for assistance. When you call that number, it comes directly to me first. There are operators standing by.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
While I do have a great team when it comes to developing a financing plan or plan to save you money, I personally work with you, even if you don't have any needs today. Save this number in your phone for future reference, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And yes, of course, we are celebrating today. We celebrate every day on Ron Siegel Radio. Look at this one. This looks good. National Peach Cobbler Day. And not doing very good for my weight loss journey, but peach cobbler, good stuff. Is there any whipped cream on that one? Maybe there's a little. Ice cream, whipped cream. I went away for the weekend, and you know, it's kind of nice. Go away for the weekend and lose a pound. And boy, we had some good wine up in Paso Robles. We had good food, and still lost a little weight. So shots work. rsrlinks.com/shot, rsrlinks.com/shot if you want to follow the journey, if you want to go on the journey yourself as well. And it's also national, this is an interesting one, National Make Lunch Count Day. National Make Lunch Count Day. Now, I had to look this up to try and figure out what is it all about? Because, you know, lunch, I think I try to make lunch count every day. Of course, you know, any reason to have a good meal is good by me. But it is a study commissioned by, yes, you got it. It's all about promoting oneself.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Commissioned by TGI Fridays. I don't even know. Are they even around anymore? The one that was near us in Yorba Linda, I know they're closed. But I don't know if they're even, I don't know if they're even around. But their study showed that workers eat lunch at their desk at least twice a week, 73%, while 1/3 have lunch at their desk every day of the week. And they say, don't fear lunching out. But, you know, and it's not on my menu choice. So I looked at it and said, you know, this is a home and finance show. So why don't we take a look and see what this, maybe does it make sense? Because they've come up with this term, FOLO. Fear of lunching out, getting away from your desk. Then I went and said, okay, from being that we're home and finance, what does it cost to go to lunch? Well, average typical costs, and I just used McDonald's because it was the first thing that came to mind. $8 to $13 for the average combo meal at McDonald's. Now, I would imagine you can probably go some places cheaper, some places more, but you know, is that where, when you think about it, in after-tax dollars, that's probably about, I don't know, an hour's worth of work. So why would you want to do that when, so I looked at it today, and I just happened to be looking at some stuff for my son. He works at Disney, and I was looking there, and he takes his lunch to work every day, and he takes snacks and the whole 9 yards, but the entree ranges between $3 and $5 for what he takes to work. And it's not like we go with the make your own. That's going with the easy way. That's either a frozen healthy choice, a Simply Choice meal, or a Costco pre-made salad. So it's not like he's having to go and make his own sandwich. I'm sure if he made his own sandwich or something along those lines, it'd probably be even cheaper. But the entree there, $3 to $5 for an entree. So TGI Friday, maybe it's not an issue of fear of lunching out. It's prudent of lunching out. Although I don't know what the way I want to say polo, but prudent of lunching out, polo. Okay, let's move right along because we beat that one to death. Let's see what the markets are doing today, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Dow Jones Industrial Average down 127 points. Last time I looked, if we took Goldman Sachs, which didn't have the greatest of earnings report, there was some fear in there. If you took that out, the Dow would be up, but right now the Dow is down 128 points. The NASDAQ is up 55. The S&P 500 is up 11. Oil up $5.89 a barrel. Ow! Yeah, that's not good. But let's take a look at gas prices. Do we want to look at gas prices? I actually drove out of a gas station this last weekend while I was on the road. Are you ready for this one? They were $7.49 for regular unleaded gasoline. Ow! Now, that's like a gotcha price. Why did I drive out of the station? Well, it's a station that I've gone to before for convenience, and it wasn't far from the hotel we were staying at. And I looked at it and said, you know something? It's right off the side of the road, right off the side of the freeway. Okay, so we drove away, went about a mile and a half from that place, and I paid $5.49 a gallon of gasoline, which I thought was pretty good, especially when you look at the average for a gallon in California right now, $5.89. Ow! Thanks, Gavin. $4.12 is the national average. $4.12 versus California's $5.89. And like I say, again, on the road, if you're out there, get a little ways off of the freeway. Josh and I have talked about this one before, where I thought, go to Nevada and get gas. It'd be a lot cheaper. And I went across state line and filled to fill up. And it was like $2 a gallon more than when I got into town. And the gas station I went to in Vegas, it wasn't, it was right by the airport. Now, I do look. So I put on the app on my phone and I said, okay, Costco gas near me. Now, it just so happened that the closest Costco gas station to where I was in Paso Robles was 25 miles. So it didn't make much sense to go and use 2 or 3 gallons of gas back and forth to go get gas at Costco. But for the most part, Costco gas, if you can find one of those, it's and that's where I found the cheapest gas when I would go to Vegas. Now, there's a good Costco right by the airport. There's another one that's a few miles up the road further, and they only have like 2 or 3 pumps or something like that, and it's a small station. That one's a pain in the butt. Well, I shouldn't say that. Pain in the neck. Because there's too big of a line there for it. So you look at it and you just say, okay, well, be prudent with where you're getting your gasoline at. But we're looking right now, the gasoline oil price is up $5.87 a gallon. And it all has to do with the Strait of Hormuz. And we'll talk about that in the next segment. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. When we come back, got a great broadcast lined up for you. When buying a home feels out of reach, some families do this instead. Here's what nobody tells you about your credit report until it's too late, and how one conversation with an estate attorney can save your family years of pain. All that and more. Reach me anytime. Off-air number 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel, the number 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
Are you a veteran, own a home, and need money? The Siegel lending team is here to help veterans refinance and get the money they need. The VA 100 lets you borrow up to 100% of your home's value, refinance your mortgages, consolidate credit cards, and lower your payments by an average of $700 a month. And the Siegel lending team knows that character means more than a credit score. Call 800-306-1990. That's 800-306-1990. Rate subject to change without notice. Licensed by the California Department of Corporations, NMLS 21037, and DRE number 018694452. You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. Mortgage Minute today being brought to you by rsrlinks.com/mobile app, rsrlinks.com/mobile app, and every day at this time, OBMMI. They provide the most comprehensive, accurate, timely, interactive analysis of pricing ever conducted in the mortgage industry, calculated from actual locked rates with consumers across 35% of all mortgage transactions nationwide. They don't tell us points paid, points received, or the APR. They only tell us the number we need to put in our mortgage calculator to determine our principal and interest payments. If you don't have a mortgage calculator, rsrlinks.com/calculators, rsrlinks.com/calculators. What did rates do on Friday? These are locked rates again from OBMMI. Conventional 30-year fixed, 6.267 down. Jumbo 30-year fixed, 6.515 down. FHA 30-year fixed, 6.107 up. VA 30-year fixed, 5.824 down. USDA fixed 30 years, 5.941. Again, if you want our thoughts about the market each and every business day morning as early as the data allows, go to our community, rsrlinks.com/HBOD. rsrlinks.com/HBOD. What are the markets doing today? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's take a look at it. The S&P 500 is now up 12.19. We're looking at, wow, look at gold. It's down $32, $47.20 an ounce. And oil, that's the big number. Oil is up $5.79 per barrel of oil. I think that's going to come down right now, mainly because with the U.S. Putting an embargo on anything coming out of the Strait of Hormuz, what are some of these countries going to do? Well, they're going to probably come to the U.S. because apparently we've got oil for sale. And if we've got enough, that increases the supply. Saudi Arabia is running theirs through a pipeline now. That will increase supply. And maybe the Strait won't be as important. Supply up, prices down. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. Again, oil prices are up after talks over the weekend in Islamabad between the U.S. and Iran failed to make progress, yet bonds are taking it in stride and are flat on the day. Iran refused to give up their nuclear ambitions. That's a deal breaker. With the talks failing for now and the Strait of Hormuz remaining effectively closed, the U.S. said that the military will blockade the entire strait and all traffic entering and exiting Iran ports this morning. The U.S. will not impede vessels transiting to and from non-Iranian ports. If the U.S. is successful, it will block Iran from exporting 1.5 million barrels of oil per day, costing them roughly $150 million per day, which could apply pressure and bring them back to the table. China could also play a key role as they may no longer get Iranian oil shipments. Existing home sales were released this morning, showing closings on existing homes in March. The market was expecting a relatively flat reading from February, but sales declined by 3.6% to an annualized pace of 3.98 million. There was a positive revision to February, which makes today's number look worse. From the originally reported February figures, sales dropped 2.7%. Sales are now down 1% year over year. Existing inventory rose 3% to 1.36 million units, but still remains relatively tight. Based on the pace of sales, the month supply of inventory is 4.1 months, above 3.8 seen in March, but below a balanced market of 4.6. Median home price rose 1.4% year over year to $408,800, which is a record high for March. Chief economist for NAR, Lawrence Yoon, explained the typical homeowner has accumulated over $128,000 in housing wealth over the past 6 years. The National Association of Realtors released their Realtor Confidence Index within this report, showing that homes remained on the market for 41 days, down from 47 days in February, but up from 36 days this time last year. 18% of homes sold above the listing price, up from 14% in February, but down from 21% last year. First-time home buyers accounted for 32% of sales, down from 34% in the previous report, and the same as last year. Cash buyers made up 27% of transactions, up from 26% last year, while investors accounted for 18%, which was up from 15% last year. The University of Michigan Consumer Confidence, the April University of Michigan Consumer Confidence fell to 47.6, which is a record low since they started tracking it back in the 1970s. Clearly, consumers are not feeling great about the current economic climate, as well as higher gasoline prices. The employment component fell to 41 from 52 and is near the lowest level since the Great Recession. The income index fell to -4, which will definitely not cause any wage-pressured inflation. This is another report that directly contradicts the BLS report, which showed very strong job growth. It's clear which report is the outlier. That's the Mortgage Minute, brought to you by rsrlinks.com/mobile app, rsrlinks.com/mobile app. Your Credit Matters segment today being brought to you by rsrlinks.com/debt-free, rsrlinks.com/debt-free. What if the number that determines whether you get a mortgage and what interest rate you pay has a mistake in it? And what if that mistake has been sitting there for months and nobody told you? I am Ron Siegel, Certified Liability Advisor, helping families build wealth through strategic debt management. Today, I want to talk about something that affects almost every financial decision you make, and most people don't give it a second thought until it's too late. We're talking about your credit report, and specifically why in 2026, more people than ever are pushing back on what's showing up in theirs. Complaints about credit reporting errors and debt collectors have surged nationwide, and I don't mean a little uptick. We're talking about a significant increase in people saying, wait, that's not right. That's not my account. That balance is wrong. That collection was paid years ago. So here's the big question. Why is this happening now? A few things are going on at once. We're seeing a major increase in errors like incorrect balances, duplicate accounts, outdated or unverifiable collections, and late payments that simply don't match account history. At the same time, lenders are getting stricter. The margin for error is smaller than it used to be, so accuracy matters more right now than it has in a long time. And here's what most people don't understand about the credit report. It's not just a record of your past. It's a tool that lenders use to judge risk. It determines whether you get approved. It determines your interest rate and has a direct impact on your monthly payment and the total amount of interest you'll pay over the life of the loan. Let me put a number on that for you. We've seen situations where a credit score is 40 or 50 points lower than it should be because of an error. That kind of difference can move someone from one interest rate tier to another. Over 30 years on a home loan, that could cost you tens of thousands of dollars. Not because you did anything wrong, but because someone else's automated system made a mistake and nobody corrected it. So what do you do about it? The first thing most people do is pull a Credit Karma or a similar app. And I want to be clear, that's a fine starting point. Those apps give you a general picture, but here's where people run into trouble. The score you see on Credit Karma is not always the score a mortgage lender is going to look at. Lenders use different scoring models, and the gap between what you see and what they see can be surprising. Go to rsrlinks.com/FICO. That's rsrlinks.com/FICO. That'll show you the score lenders actually pull, not just an estimate. Now, I'm not usually a cynical person, but when it comes to credit bureaus, I have to be honest with you about something. Credit bureaus are for-profit companies. And here's what most people never stop to think about. They actually make more money when your score is lower. Why? Because creditors pay the bureaus to access consumer credit data. And when your score is lower, creditors know they can charge you a higher interest rate. That makes you more valuable to them as a customer. So there's a financial incentive built into the system that does not point in your direction. I'm not saying there's some big conspiracy. I'm just saying the bureaus are not on your team, and you should not assume they are motivated to clean up your file on your behalf. That leads to the bigger problem. Credit bureaus don't automatically fix mistakes. They rely on automated systems. They rely on information that comes back from creditors, and their verification process has real limitations. That means errors can stay on your report for a long time unless they're challenged in the right way, at the right time, through the right channels. There's another problem with going it alone on credit disputes. Disputing the wrong thing in the wrong way at the wrong time can actually make things worse. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. Timing matters a lot when it comes to paying or settling accounts. Some accounts need multiple rounds of disputes and different approaches depending on the creditor. And if you don't see the rules, you can accidentally reset the clock on something that is about to fall off your report anyway. I had a client, let's call them Maria, who was about 6 months away from buying a home. She had done everything right for years, been very responsible, but she pulled her credit and found a collection account that wasn't hers. She jumped on it herself, disputed it through one of the apps, and ended up getting it flagged in a way that actually delayed her purchase by another 4 months while the investigation ran its course. Not because she was wrong, she was right. The account was in error because the process matters as much as the content of the dispute. Here's the bottom line. Your credit report is not some passive document sitting in a filing cabinet somewhere. It's a living, active part of your financial picture. Errors show up. Outdated information stays on longer than it should, and the system is not set to catch and fix those things on your behalf. That's your job or the job of someone who knows how the system works. If you're thinking about a mortgage, whether you're buying, refinancing, or just planning ahead, your credit profile is the foundation. Everything else is built on top of it. Strategy beats rate always. But you can't execute a strategy if the numbers you're working from are wrong. Check your score, know what's there, and if something doesn't look right, get help from someone who understands the process. The tools, rsrlinks.com/FICO, rsrlinks.com/FICO to see what lenders actually see, and rsrlinks.com/keysteps, rsrlinks.com/keysteps to get your whole financial house in order. I am Ron Siegel, your Certified Liability Advisor, helping families build wealth through strategic debt management. Thanks for listening to the Your Credit Matters segment, brought to you by rsrlinks.com/debt-free, rsrlinks.com/debt-free. You are listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. When we come back, when buying a home feels out of reach, some families do this instead. How one conversation with an estate attorney can save your family years of pain. All that and more. Reach me anytime. Off-air number 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube. Ron Siegel, the number 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
Confused about the home buying process? Or curious how much you really know about buying a home? Take the First Home IQ quiz to test your understanding of buying a home. Created by the nonprofit First Home IQ, this 5-minute quiz will give you a score, what you missed, and why. Take the quiz in 5 minutes at rsrlinks.com/FHIQ and find out what you need to know about buying your first home. That's rsrlinks.com/FHIQ.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. Real-time real estate segment today being brought to you by rsrmoney.com, rsrmoney.com. When buying a home feels out of reach, some families do this instead. For a lot of people, the math on buying a home just doesn't really work right now. Maybe that's how it feels for you too. You look at the cost of buying, then you look at the cost of childcare, and it starts to feel like you have to choose one or the other. But some families are finding a way to make both work by doing something a little different, teaming up to purchase a multi-generational home. One reason is becoming more common. It's no secret that affordability has been a challenge in recent years. But with families with young kids, there's an added layer that can make it feel even harder. Childcare. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, childcare should take up no more than 7% of your monthly income. But in reality, the average married couple spends closer to 10%. If you're watching us on RonSiegelRadio.tv, any of our socials, or the ABC News and Talk AM 1490 and FM 98.1 video feed, you are seeing a chart. Childcare costs roughly 10% of household income nationally. And yes, of course, in California, we are on the higher side. When you combine that with the cost of buying a home, it's easy to see why things can feel stretched. That's exactly why more families are starting to rethink how they approach both. The solution more people are turning to, multi-generational living. One option gaining traction, multi-generational living. That's when parents, grandparents, or other relatives buy a house together and live under the same roof. And it's not just about convenience anymore. It's becoming a go-to strategy. You can see it in the data. According to the National Association of Realtors, NAR, almost 1 in 7 home buyers, 14%, bought a multi-generational home in 2025. And that's on the chart that we've got there now. And for the first time, childcare is showing up as a key reason why they chose this option. As NAR explains, quote, this year's report features 2 new primary reasons for purchasing a multi-generational home. Grandchildren living in the home, 12%, and to help reduce the cost of childcare, 6%. So why does it work? Buying a multi-generational home solves 2 big challenges at the same time. First, it shares the financial responsibility. If you pool multiple incomes together, you may be able to afford a home you couldn't have on your own. Second, it can also solve the childcare puzzle. When grandparents or other relatives live in the home, they may be able to help with daily care, which can significantly reduce or even eliminate daycare costs. And for many people, that combination is what finally makes their move possible. If the cost of childcare and housing together have made buying feel out of reach right now, it may be worth exploring creative options like buying a home with your loved ones. Bottom line, if you want more information on multi-generational homes, let's have a quick conversation about what's available in the area. Sometimes the path to home ownership isn't doing it alone, it's doing it together. And that's the Real-Time Real Estate segment brought to you by rsrmoney.com, rsrmoney.com. Borrow Smart segment today being brought to you by gethomeselect.com, gethomeselect.com. Have you talked to your kids lately? I mean, really talk, not the weather, not the grandkids' soccer game. I mean, a real conversation about your relationship, your family, and what happens to everything you've worked for when you're gone. If that question made you a little uncomfortable, you're not alone. I am Ron Siegel, Certified Liability Advisor, helping families build wealth through strategic debt management. And today I want to talk about something that doesn't come up enough on a mortgage and finance show. Family estrangement. Because here's the thing. I read an article this week from the Wall Street Journal that stopped me cold. And it has everything to do with the families I work with every day. Here's the number that got me. About 1 in 10 Americans is currently estranged from a parent or child. Not a small number. That's your neighbor. That's your coworker. That might even be someone in your own family right now. And the experts who study this say it's getting worse, not better. So what does that have to do with mortgages and financial planning? More than you might think. Let me explain. When I sit down with a family, in those days, that means a Zoom call, we talk about more than just the rate on their loan. We talk about their household picture, who owns what happens if something changes, what the plan is for the next 10, 20, or 30 years. And I can't tell you how many times I've been in the middle of that conversation and someone mentions almost in passing that they're not really talking to their son right now, or their daughter moved across the country and things are strained, or there's a sibling situation that nobody wants to touch. And my question is always the same. Does your estate plan know that? Because here's what most people don't think about. When you create a will, a trust, a beneficiary designation, all of that is written at a specific moment in time. It reflects your relationships as they existed on the day you signed. But families change, relationships shift, and if your legal documents haven't kept up with your real life, that's a problem. I had a client, call him Frank. Frank had 2 adult kids. He'd done everything right. He had a trust, had a will, had his house in order. Then things went sideways with his daughter over something political. The article I read talks about how political differences are one of the big drivers of estrangement right now. They stopped talking. 2 years went by, 3 years. Frank kept meaning to update his documents, but never got around to it. Frank passed away unexpectedly. His daughter, who he hadn't spoken to in years, was still named as a co-trustee in his estate plan. What happened next wasn't pretty. Not for his son, not for anyone. That's not a made-up scenario. That happens, and it happens because families assume they'll get around to the hard conversations eventually. The Wall Street Journal piece I read was actually pretty hopeful. It was an interview with a psychologist who has spent his career studying why these rifts happen and how to heal them. And his advice was really practical. It came down to listening more than defending, being willing to acknowledge where you fell short, and understanding that your adult children don't feel the same sense of obligation that your generation felt towards their own parents. That's where sitting with for a minute. They're not going to stay in the relationship just because you're family. They're going to stay because the relationship is good. That's a different standard than most parents grew up with. And here's where I think the financial conversation actually helps. Talking about your estate plan, what you own, what you want to leave behind, what you want to provide for. That's one of the most meaningful conversations a family can have. It forces you to say out loud what you value, who matters to you, what you want your legacy to look like. Done right, that conversation can actually bring families closer. Done wrong or done not at all, it can tear them apart after you're gone. Now, here's something most people don't realize. Your trust or will isn't a set it and forget it document. Estate planning professionals generally recommend reviewing your plan with an attorney at least every 2 years. And that's not just because your family situation changes, it's because the law changes. Statutory changes at the state and federal level, changes to tax law, inheritance rules, trust regulations can affect how your plan actually works, sometimes in ways that catch families completely off guard. A document that was perfectly drafted 5 years ago may not do what you think it does today. The law moved and your plan didn't. I'm not a therapist. I'm not going to help you repair your relationship with your kid, but I do work with an estate planning partner who helps families get these documents right, who makes sure that the people who want to protect are protected, and who can flag when something in your current plan no longer matches your current life or current law. If you haven't reviewed your estate plan in the last couple of years, or if your family situation has changed in any way, a marriage, a divorce, a falling out, a new grandchild, now's the time, not someday, now. Go to rsrlinks.com/estate. That's rsrlinks.com/estate. Yeah, that's like Ron Siegel Radio, RSR Links. We'll connect you with the right people to make sure your plan reflects your life as it actually is today, because the wealth you've built over a lifetime deserves a plan that's as current as your relationships, and your family deserves the clarity that only comes from having the hard conversations while you still can. I am Ron Siegel, your Certified Liability Advisor, helping families build wealth through strategic debt management. That is the Borrow Smart segment, brought to you by GetHomeSelect.com. GetHomeSelect.com. And yes, that is probably the best loan on the market for the right person. And I've never been one that says that homes, that you always need to have the exact same, that every loan is right for everybody. No. And I'm also this person that says, I've never seen a bad loan product. I have seen bad applications of loan products. Big, big difference. So take a look at the all-in-one loan. If you want to have your home paid off 8 to 10 years, generally, it's a 30-year loan, but you can have that balance 8 to 10 years, not paying more money, just using the money you already make more strategically. Just throw that out there. Go take a look at it. GetHomeSelect.com. GetHomeSelect.com. It's not the easiest loan to understand, but it will save you more money than anything I've ever seen. And yes, the first loan I did or helped somebody else with was in 1983. So I've seen a lot of loans, a lot of loan products. GetHomeselect.com, GetHomeselect.com. You are listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. When we get back, wondering if you should still buy a home right now? Got some stuff for you to keep in mind and some tools for you. All that and more. Reach me anytime off air number 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel, the number 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
Do you know a homeowner experiencing divorce? Do you know a real estate reference and the divorce decree could cost tens of thousands of dollars? A certified divorce mortgage planning and real estate report could save you thousands of dollars, and it's free from your local certified divorce lending professional. Reach out to Ron today. RonIsMyLender.com. Again, RonIsMyLender.com. Licensed under NMLS 217037, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. Real-time real estate segment today being brought to you by rsrmoney.com, rsrmoney.com. Wondering if you should still buy a home right now? Here's what's to keep in mind. With the economic headlines, global events, and the near constant talk about affordability, you may be wondering if this is the right time to move. But here's what you need to remember. While recent events do have some impact on the housing market, they don't take buying off the table. You just have to use a different strategy. Hey, remember the saying, strategy beats rate always. Mortgage rates have been up slightly. Here's why. After trending down for most of 2025, mortgage rates have been higher again for over roughly a month now. And experts say it's a result of what's happening overseas and in the broader economy. As Mark Fleming, chief economist at First American, explains, mortgage rates have recently moved higher, driven by geopolitical uncertainty and rising energy costs that are contributing to inflation concerns. But what does that really mean for you? Should you wait for everything to settle back down before you buy a home? The short answer, no. You don't have to wait. Your window to buy did not close. It's true that a month or so ago, when rates were just shy of 6%, buying felt a bit more affordable. And now that rates are hovering around the mid-sixes, for the monthly payment costs are higher. But zoom out for a second. Let's say you're taking out a loan for $500,000. Even with rates in the mid-sixes, you're still saving roughly $300 a month on your monthly payment compared to buyers who made their purchase early last year. That means this recent increase in rates hasn't erased the progress we've seen. Buying is still more affordable than it was just 1 year ago. And if you're watching us on RonSiegelRadio.tv, any of our socials, or the ABC News and Talk AM 1490, FM 98.1 video feed, you are seeing a chart. Affordability is still better than it was a year ago. So let's take a look at that. Fixed mortgage rate, January 2025, 7.26%. Home loan amount, $500,000. Monthly principal and interest payment, $34.14. We're just using national numbers here, so it's not an offer to lend, and I'm not giving you the APRs on all of this. It's just the principal and interest. It's just math calculations. April 2026, 6.4% is the average interest rate. Home loan amount, still $500,000. That's $31.28 a month. Principal and interest, savings per month, $286. Now, if we go back to February 2026, that was a 5.99%. Again, it's using the same $500,000 loan amount. That was $29.95. That's $419 cheaper than it was a year ago. So let's just think about some of these numbers and where we are with them, because the price of the property has probably come down a little bit from where it was. We'll talk about that. Sure, your monthly payment would have been a little less expensive a few weeks back, but hindsight, it's always 2020. I wonder what we'll be saying a month from now. The goal moving forward shouldn't be to perfectly time the market. You can't. Things change too quickly for that. Instead, the real goal is to make the best decision you can based on where things are today. And the best advice anyone can give is brace for volatility. When it comes to rates, expect the unexpected. Mortgage rates are going to continue to move around in the weeks or months ahead as new information and economic reports come out. Try to remember you can't control global events or where rates go next week or even next month, but you can control how you prepare. If you do that, it becomes less about the headlines and more about your situation. Where do you start the preparation? rsrlinks.com/keysteps. That's rsrlinks.com/keysteps. If you want or need to move, you still can. The simple truth is, if you want to move, you can still do it. Some buyers are choosing to move forward right now because their needs haven't changed. A growing family, a job relocation, a lifestyle shift, those things still matter. And for buyers who decide to move forward, there are ways to make it work. For example, you could explore options like adjustable rate mortgages to get a lower rate up front. That may or may not be the right fit for you, but it highlights an important point. Strategy beats rate always. There are strategies that can help you move even now. What matters most is having a plan, and working with the right agent and the right lender is a big part of that. With expert help, you'll understand your budget and what the math looks like at today's rates. Again, rsrlinks.com/keysteps. rsrlinks.com/keysteps. Explore your financial options, including ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages, and assistance programs. Have trusted guidance from experts who will keep you up to date throughout the process. Bottom line, even though there's some uncertainty, that uncertainty doesn't mean you're out of options. If you need to move, you still can. Let's connect so we can explore all your options and make your move happen and develop the right strategy for you. Again, strategy beats rate always. That's the Real-Time Real Estate segment brought to you by rsrmoney.com, rsrmoney.com. Hey, and if you're renting, let's give away some stuff, Josh. We've got, if you're renting, rsrlinks.com/RVO, rsrlinks.com/RVO. That's a rent versus own analysis for you. We did that. We show you a whole tool on that. If you're a first-time home buyer, that'd be your next logical thing. rsrlinks.com/FTHB, rsrlinks.com/FTHB, first-time home buyer. And we've got the home buyer's guide, rsrlinks.com/HBG, rsrlinks.com/HBG. So let's try this. I think we might have time for this, Josh. Let's look at doing, I haven't talked about this. I know we've done some, I share it a lot, but let's do a Your Credit Matters segment brought to you by rsrlinks.com/debt-free, rsrlinks.com/debt-free. So you tell me that you pay off your credit cards as soon as you get the bill, the monthly statement. And I tell you, congratulations, you're one of the 95% of the people who paid their credit card bill the wrong way for FICO scoring purposes. I am Ron Siegel, your Certified Liability Advisor, helping families build wealth through strategic debt management. So let's talk about this. How do you pay your credit card bills the right way for FICO scoring purposes? And we've done this many, many times, rsrccpayment.com, rsrccpayment.com. But let's talk about this and let's talk it through. 30 to 35% of your credit score comes from one of the next two, 30% comes from the other. 35%, paying your credit card bills, paying your bills on time. 30% is from your debt utilization. What is debt utilization? So you have a credit card with $1,000 limit and you have $900 balance. That's a 90% utilization, and it hurts your score. The only thing worse is if you go over 100%. Now, if you have a 70% utilization, same $1,000 credit card bill, you're using, the statement date says 700, you've used 70%. If you've got a $500 bill on the statement date and you've got the same $1,000 limit, 50%, that's neutral. 30% is when it's going to start helping your scores. 10% is really, really good. Helps your FICO scores. Now, you have to understand there's 2 dates on every credit card statement. The statement closing date and the payment due date. Now, the statement closing date is what you see, and actually that's generally what gets reported to the credit agencies. So if you go ahead and pay that bill 100% right after you get the statement, it posts you're not late, and your payment on time record reflects on-time payments, but your utilization does not get any benefit, because if you've got a $900 bill on that $1,000 limit, you pay the $900 right after you get the statement, but you're spending money all month, and then now you get a $950 bill the next time. Well, your utilization never reflected the fact that you paid it off, because now you've got a 95% utilization. So what's the solution? About 4 or 5 days before your statement closing date, depending upon how long it takes for your check to get to, or your payment to get to the credit card, go online and look at the credit card balance. Pay as much as you can at that time. So if you've got that $900 balance and you were planning on paying it off, pay it off a few days early. That way, when the statement comes out, all it has is new spending, which might be just a few dollars here and there. It's always best to have a few dollars left on there, because it helps with the math. Like 0 divided by 1,000 is rough on a computer's math systems, even though you and I know it's below 10%. So then what you do is you set up an automatic payment every single month for your minimum payment. So $50, $100, whatever that number is. Set that up as an auto pay every month. So yes, you are making 2 payments through your bill paying system every single month, and that's going to help your scores. Now, keep the credit cards active. Inactive credit cards over time have a diminished value to your credit report. Everything over time that's not active has a diminishing value. So how do you keep them active and not build up too much credit? Well, the answer to that is you have a Netflix card or a Netflix account. Pay it on your credit card. I don't know, it's $15, $20, something like that. Set an auto pay that the day after that bill comes in, you pay it. So that card stays active. Set up for your cell phone on another card, so that card stays active. And set up maybe your YouTube account or whoever your other streaming services are on another card. Ideal credit mix. Credit mix is a small part of your credit score, but it is a part. So the ideal credit mix is 1 mortgage, two installment loans. That's car payments, and 3 credit cards. But if you've got that minimal balance, if you got a low utilization rate, that's good for you. Now, if you can, over time, again, call your credit card company, because if you're spending $900 every month on that $1,000 credit card, over time, that's a good, and you're paying it off. Credit card company's happy. They're making money. Maybe you're not paying any interest, but they're still making money on their charges that they charge for processing to the people where you go and spend your money at. Cool, that's the way to do it. But call the credit card company or go online and ask them to increase your balance. Not so you can spend more money. It's just so that your utilization rate becomes lower all the time. We want to keep that utilization rate low because, again, between your payment history and your utilization, that's 65% of your FICO score. 65%. So just keep that in mind when you're paying that and you're thinking about buying a car, if you're using credit, buying a house, getting a mortgage. I think that we'll probably be coming into refinance season soon. Getting one of the quick and easy home equity lines of credit, all available. So that is Your Credit Matters, brought to you by rsrlinks.com/debt-free, rsrlinks.com/debt-free. And as always, I ask that first radio preset button to come back here and join Ron Siegel Radio, where we only speak about items affecting your house and your bank account. Thanks to all of our sponsors. A big thanks to Josh and Sean who are engineering us today. And of course, a special thanks to you for spending a little bit of your day with us. That's all for Ron Siegel Radio. Again, if you have any questions or to meet any of our guests, call me anytime, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990 or ronsiegelradio.com. And remember, make a lot of money so you can help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on Ron Siegel Radio.